Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Imperial Brush Podcast. I'm joined today by Brushlikker, Norm, and BattlelineMinis, and I'm StibioPrimaris. So I'll just start off with, how's your week, month, year, life? Last time I spoke to you, how's it going, guys?
Think what? When did we last speak?
Last year, wasn't it? He did it. He did it.
It's been about a month.
Yeah, we've all been busy with stuff.
Yeah, had a lot going on. Christmas time's one of those times, though, I think, where you have a lot of time, but not a lot of time at the same time. If that makes sense.
I feel you.
For me, I get more time off work over Christmas, but then it's not really downtime, is it? Because you're filling that time with stuff that has not been hobby, I'm afraid.
I thought you were about to say filling your mouth with turkey.
Filling my mouth with turkey. Unfortunately, I think maybe our turkey was a bit undercooked at Christmas because I ended up spending Boxing Day not very well.
A massive segue 3 minutes into the podcast. When I first started, and is this too rude? Is this too... Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll carry on. When I first started seeing Mrs. Stibio, I tried to impress her with a Christmas dinner. So I got a 4-bird roast. Now,
Can I just interrupt you and ask, was it December or was this like June?
It was Christmas time.
All right, fair enough.
But I am a good cook, if I say so myself. But yeah, so I bought a 4-bird roast, cooked it, and I cut it up, and she was like, should it be that pink? And I was like, oh, it's just it's like a smoke ring off the bacon. It's fine. So I had gastroenteritis for 9 days. It was horrific.
Lovely.
But yeah, she probably took care of me, and I was like, that's the one, I'm going to marry her.
Oh, so she didn't get it?
No, because she didn't eat it.
All right.
She sent it.
Brilliant.
But
yeah.
So how's
Back to the mini joke,
your beer, but I'll pass on the bet.
Oh, why is it pink and raw?
She was wise.
It's turkey sashimi, but yeah.
Nice.
So how's the hobby been going then?
I'll let someone else answer.
Well.
What hobby?
Well, it's a good segue. I know Brush has been doing loads, but it's a good segue into our topic today, which is Hobby Burnout.
Yeah.
Which I think we've all suffered with. But yeah, so me personally, I think between last podcast and now, I've painted a Space Marine attack bike, and I'm currently working on an Imperial Fist. So that's all I've been doing.
Yeah, I've been trying to get... I know we're going to move on to talking about burnout, but I've been trying to kind of prepare projects in front of me. So I have built maybe 3 or 4 models, a couple of scouts out of my kill team box. I got one of the Middle Earth models, and I built that, and something else which I can't remember. But I've told myself I've got maybe 8 or 9 models that I want to build in front of me, get them all primed up, and then I can just flip between the projects as I want to. So I have started doing that because I'm a sucker for doing one thing, starting it, and being like, seeing something else cool and going, I want to do that as well. But if I don't have it built up, then I don't do it, and then lose interest on what I was previously doing, and then that's where my motivation goes out the window, and I'm like, damn it. So although I haven't done I haven't done any painting, I have been doing a little bit of hobbying, to be fair, but trying to get prepared, should we say. And I think the last time we spoke, I said maybe hinted at a YouTube channel which has been progressing a little bit further, which should hopefully, maybe 10 days, 15 days.
Nice.
Oh my days.
Yeah. So, but no, I'm quite happy so far. But obviously, I'm a new dad again, and it's not often the easiest when you're trying to juggle your time. Like my son's 3-year-old, and we have him into a really good routine. He's like in bed for like 7 p.m. He sleeps 7 while 7. It's brilliant. So I've had that's not a massive disturbance to my life because we get in from work, we eat, we have a little bit of playtime before bed. Then I kind of resume my hobbies in the evening, whereas my daughter's obviously 2-month-old and she's not in any routine, so anything goes, which is shake things up a little bit. Yeah, we're getting there.
Good. It's glad to Yeah, it's good to hear. So many of my mates are just babies right now. Everyone's having babies. Babies out the ears. I've just been to see a baby. Yeah, babies, babies, babies. So many tired people.
Yeah, that, you know what? I mean, I'm quite fortunate in that because my missus is on maternity, she's doing like the night shifts, should we say? And obviously, I'm going to work during the day, but we've just managed to get her into a routine where she's only waking up once in the middle of the night. So even my wife's coping.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
How about you, Brush? What have you been doing?
I've been on fire, pain-wise, to be fair. I think after the charity event, I took 3 weeks off of streaming. I painted up, mostly Age of Sigmar models. So I painted up, what's this called? The Ogroid Myrmidon, which is like a pit fighter, horned Bulgor type model. And because I set myself the goal of participating in competitions, that's basically my push piece, so to speak. But also painted up a Vizek Scour, which is the new, basically greater demon for the Skaven faction in Age of Sigmar for a buddy of mine as a thank you. All the Trench Crusade STLs as a gift from some of my community members. I'm really enjoying those. I got them printed and it's a lot of fun. Great proxies if you want to do something special for your 40k guard, to be fair. They scale really nicely, I believe. Painted up one of the Azeb troops, basically the regular, foot troop type of dudes. I've been building and priming Blade Guard veterans, Sanguinius, Deathwing companions, and 5 proxies for the Sanguinary Guard. I've been prepping those up for painting. Man, a lot going on. I've actually started looking for a job because I need some more steady income. So I'm looking into reteaching myself to be a teacher.
Nice.
Yeah, and also a newborn. He's 3 months old now. And basically, I sleep whenever I can sleep, which is, I think you know all about this, Norm, but
Yeah.
The 3-year-old is all down and dandy and quite routined out, except for some tantrums during today. He's going through like toddler puberty, I believe it's it's called.
Three-nager.
Oh my dear Lord, such a handful sometimes. But wrapping up the Christmas event as well. So sending out all the gifts, all the giveaways, and then hopefully transferring the 4K that we brought up to the charity, hopefully Friday. Yeah, man, I've not been sitting still, to be fair.
That is commendable. Like, just even remembering everything. That's
Yeah.
commendable.
I do gotta be fair. My desk is one giant mess at the moment, so everything is right in front of me.
I couldn't do that. I'd be too scared of dust.
Well, I was curious about this because we kind of touched on hobby burnout, but how would you define hobby burnout? Because I've had moments where I would like not pick up a brush, not touch a model for like a week, and then just go from there. But I've heard, Norm, you were building some things, and you, Stibio, you've also been committing heresy, I've seen.
I think probably Battleline's the best one to ask. Because I think, how have you been this last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'm the one sitting quietly in the corner. Because I probably should have gone first after the Brush's massive list there. Hobby burnout's hitting hard. I mean, I don't think, like, during the Christmas period, I really even touched a brush or model. So the Dreadnought that I was working on before Christmas, I'd only just finished assembling it this weekend. As during the whole Christmas period, I just basically didn't touch my hobby desk. I mean, I think what Norm touched on, the fact that although you've got the free time, you're so busy with like everything else and, seeing family and just enjoying the holiday period, you're just so tired and exhausted from that. You don't actually have the time for your normal free time hobbies. And my hobby's going slowly, very slowly. But I sat at the desk the other night and just start getting some of those. Well, the Dreadnought finished for one. There was something else I did. See, I can't even remember what I've been doing.
You were doing an assassin.
An assassin, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh my god, I completely forgot about that. I literally this weekend I just gave it to the client. Oh my god. Yeah. So that was all wrapped up, and obviously he was super happy with that. But yeah, that was just before Christmas. like I said, apart from that, it's just quiet, very quiet on the hobby front. It's textbook burnout for me. I think I tried doing 1,001 jobs, like not just with hobbying, and I spread myself way too thin. So I had to take a step back from something to focus on like other things that needed prioritizing, really.
Has the competition been taking much work?
Yeah, that's been on my mind a lot recently. In fact, that was one of the pieces that I started sorting out on the hobby desk this week. I finally got the trophies in, so prepping them all up to get painted, and then have those to go. But so there's a bit of work involved in those because they're like PLA. Is that the right one? PLA. So there's obviously print lines. So I've got to sand them all smoothly and stuff. But yeah, it's going slowly. But I picked up a brush the other day, so that's a small step back. A small step back. It's kind of every time I've wanted to do something, it's not gone right. For instance, when I tried doing the priming the other day, and something was wrong with the nozzle on the airbrush. So I tried disassembling it. Turned out that the nozzle had corroded in like the shroud. And I was like, oh, great. And then I spent the next half hour trying to carefully pry it out so I didn't damage this brass nozzle.
It's just sometimes it's one thing after another, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how it's feeling really recently.
But I want to interject real quickly because I've been in touch with you over the Christmas days, sliding in each other's DMs.
Yeah.
Keep it private. But
just the stuff that's allowed to be aired.
Just the business. But I do feel like you've made strides in trying to organize the whole Battleline brand more over these past few weeks.
I mean, that was kind of the focus of 2025, to turn it from more of just like a hobby thing to taking it more of a, this could be something, not just a person who dips minis on the internet. It could actually be something. So that's why I'm trying to really focus on this year.
Often as well,
sorry.
Go on, mate, you're fine.
I also feel like you've made a lot of like steps in directions that you were not familiar with. And that takes up a lot of mental energy and a lot of thinking power, processing power as well.
I know what you're on about.
Yeah,
that's another thing that's now sitting on the desk that I'm like, okay, I need to do that, and it's like added to the list. But you're right. It's definitely a step to being professional. Is that a way to put it?
And you're also not all too familiar with doing it yourself. I feel like you, at least from the conversations that we have, is that I noticed that you have a lot of people around you that you can approach, but the experience,
it's really handy.
Living the experience is not, you've not lived it, so to speak. No,
definitely not. Definitely. It's it's one thing seeing like other people, like do these sorts of things, and then you try yourself and it's just like, excuse me, how do they do it? It's a bit like, wait, you just did that, it's so easy, but what? It's definitely a learning curve.
There's just not enough hours in the day. I don't see how people do it.
There's not enough hours sleep in the night.
Oh, you guys are babies as well. I just don't know how you do it. But
we don't.
I've been the opposite of you guys. So I was trying to go a bit more like YouTube, blah blah blah, and I've pared everything down because I was doing a bit too much. So like I knocked sponsorships on the head, all that sort of stuff on the head, and just focused on just hobby, putting up a picture when I can, and that's it. And my only real like commitment that I want to do.
I think that's the thing. I think it's a little bit different. If you're doing something as a job or whatever, you're doing it for an income that you require, it's totally different to a hobby. And I think the moment when, like I think me and you have spoken about it in the past, when you'll say to me like, sometimes I've said yes to something that I wish I hadn't, because all of a sudden it's taken the fun out of it for me, but I feel the pressure of doing it because I've agreed to do it for whatever person. And I think if something's a hobby, ultimately it should be fun. And if it's not fun, there's a reason, and that's that can be down to just falling out of love with something, or typically if you've noticed a trend in that, hang on a minute, I'm putting a bunch of pressure on myself and that's killing my fun because I feel like I have to do things, then it's no longer a hobby, it's a chore at that point.
Yeah, and that leads to hobby burnout.
Yep.
And once I sort of lifted the shackles, shall we say, I found it. I've just been painting this Imperial Fist. I've just been loving it. It was a bit of a challenge at the beginning, blimey. Everything went wrong. But
he used ultramarine blue. That's why it went wrong.
Why is it not turning yellow?
it's just I was so excited and eager to paint him. I didn't shake the can up enough. And I think it was a bit too cold. I didn't warm it up. Things that I usually do, like shaking the can for 5 minutes, letting it sit in a protein shaker in hot water to warm up. I just omitted that, sprayed it at 2 degrees Celsius, and then wondered why it went wrong. And then I tried an oil wash, and it went horrific. It was just so weird as well. Imagine the recess. The oil migrated out of the recess into 2 distinct lines either side of the recess.
You're going against.
And I was
you're
just
doing warp shenanigans.
But once I got over that, it was just so enjoyable, just sitting there painting. I had the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast on. I was just painting away, in my element, thriving, flourishing, moisturized. It was glorious.
Enjoying the hobby.
And that is the opposite of burnout. That's why you're doing it. That's why we all fell in love with it. It's relaxing. It takes you away from stress. It takes you away from all the other nonsense going on. And it's just painting and enjoying it for yourself.
100%.
I don't know what 2025 holds, but for me personally, I want to just be doing just stuff that I enjoy. Because we've got a lot of stuff in real life that we need to sort out. So I want just to paint little dudes, and that's it.
But I'm also kind of curious, because I've noticed that because I do commissions as well, sometimes there's models in there where I'm like, oh, I really don't feel like. But I found a system around it where I, even though there's a timeline, if I really feel like I do not want to, I'm not looking forward to touching the model. What I do is I take another model that I do enjoy, and then I I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah.
So what I do is I take a model that I don't feel like painting. I force myself to do, for example, all the trim. Then I do all the trim, and when I've done that, I reward myself with painting one of my own models. And what I do is I'll plan an hour and a half for myself, put an alarm clock, start working on that, and then I take the other model again, and then I have to pick another part that I'm going to get finished. And then at some point, I get to that stage where the model looks really nice, and I get inspired again. And that's when I just start plowing through painting again, past that ugly face, basically. I don't know how you guys solve those types of issues for yourself, or I don't know, when you need to get something done for a tournament, or you feel like you've got a competition, or whatever it is.
I mean, it's, I suppose, a little bit different if it's a commission. You have to. Whereas for me, if I start doing something and I lose interest in it, it then goes into the pile of stuff that is never going to get completed, basically. And I tell a lie. It won't never get completed, but it does go into the side of, I've just got a couple of display cases on one of the shelves, and it goes into the side that's we'll touch that another time, maybe in the near future, possibly 2025.
Shame.
It's just one of those. What is it? I've got a couple of those wicked brick things, and they finally delivered after 12 weeks, but the customer service was terrible, but the wicked, they are really nicely made, to be fair. But we'll not go off on that because I could cause a storm, and 30 minutes later you'd be going, my days, you just shut up.
I was looking at their cases. I thought it'd be amazing for my eventual Thunderhawk diorama, because you need something massive to cover in dust. And I've heard, I don't want to badmouth people on the podcast, but I'm not looking into wicked brick.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not going to... I'll just tell you the facts. I ordered it in September, and it had a 6-week wait time when I ordered it. So I gave it 7 weeks and sent them an email saying, where is it? And every week from there, I continued to send them emails and got replies saying, oh, it'll be sent in 5 days, and 5 days would come, it still wouldn't be sent, and I got that until December. And then in December, my last email was, you ship this tomorrow or I'll be going to Trading Standards and posting everything on my socials. And an hour later, I got a shipping notification.
Okay, yeah, that's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just because we're the BBC and we need some balance. In games, if you order something from there and it's out of stock or it's coming into stock, they will email you every week, giving you a little update, telling you that it's not in stock, and it's one of their customer service reps, and they'll say, how would you like to proceed? Do you want to wait? Do you want a refund?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Every week. So I had that going on for about 6 months, and they are the best customer service. They are so kind and they are so helpful.
It's not hard to give good customer service, and honesty is, you know what, like if when I emailed 7 weeks after, someone emailed me back and said, look, we're really sorry that it's going to be another 6 weeks before we can get this to you because of this, I'd have been fine with it. I'd have been like, you know what, it is what it is. Like, I'm in business myself, I know how things work, but instead, when you get, it's going to be 5 days, and this happens continuously until you sort of have to be stern, like, yeah, but anyway, that's another story.
They promised every Golden Demon winner
Yeah.
at Adepticon a custom-built display stand, and that they only gave them out to people who chased them up.
Yeah.
And shady.
One of the replies I saw on someone's email was like, basically like saying, almost as if to say, like, I think you're being a little bit impatient over something that you're getting for free, and it's like, hang on a minute, this is nearly a year later.
Yeah, it's like a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I can't actually knock the actual case itself because it is, they look brilliant on the shelf, and I do like them, but I won't be buying any.
Fantastic build quality.
Yeah,
it's just other areas left to be desired.
Aye.
It's probably the waiting time to get the quality that you want, right?
Yeah, but that's fine. Just be transparent about it.
Yeah.
It's like Games Workshop. They say this made to order thing is going to be 180 days. And you're like, okay, I will wait 180 days. That's fine.
Yeah, crazy times. But I don't know how we got onto that from whatever we were at.
This old man shouts at clouds.
Hobby Burnout, because I can't. For me, I am my own worst enemy. I would say I've never actually experienced hobby burnout. I rather experience, I don't even know what you'd call it, like over planning probably. And it's not just within this hobby, it's just what I'm like in my life. I've probably got like OCD of some sort. I genuinely do, like, kind of going,
because I'll forget the word, analysis paralysis.
Okay, analysis paralysis, yeah. Kind of going back to like Christmas, I had quite a lot of free time, but my issue is that if you said to me now, like, or you've got, if like let's say like a random 1 hour gap opens up, I can't do anything in that hour. I can't hobby in that hour. I mentally prepared myself that that hour's. I'm just a very structured person. I have to be like, right, so this evening's for doing this and this evening's for doing that, and I know I'm a bit of a freak for that, but my issue is that I want everything to be perfect before I start, and it's never perfect, and I am, it's like I'm in therapy right now, but I am getting better. No, I am getting better, and that's one of my sort of 2025 goals. I've said I want to try and make the most of shorter amounts of time. Like if I've got an hour, like for example on a Wednesday, I do jiu-jitsu, and I walk back in the house at about 9:15, and my wife's normally asleep at that time. And I end up just dropping on the sofa and like doom scrolling for 2 hours because I do go to bed quite late, and really I could just come into the hobby room, pick the brush up and crack on. But mentally, it does take a bit of doing for me, and that is my, like I say, probably haven't painted enough to experience hobby burnout. It's just getting the motivation to do little and often, whereas in my mind, I'm very much, right, I'm invested in this, I'm all in. If I can't do that, I find it hard to do anything. Like I was saying earlier, like the YouTube channel has been consuming my life for the past 2 weeks, and I'll do something and I'll have like an hour and a half left. I think, right, I've done now. I don't need to do anything else on that tonight, and I could just pick up one of my projects and start painting, and I just don't. So if anyone out there has any suggestions for, I don't know, I can't be the only one that's like that, surely, but I'm sure someone's found a system to beat that mentality.
I'm a little bit like that, but also not. So I'll have each thing, each project, each model, I know the steps that need to be done. Like I've got to base coat, I've got to edge highlight, I've got to paint each different colour and recess shade it. So each of those steps, like edge highlight might be 4 hours, doing silver might be an hour, that sort of thing.
You kind of break it down.
Yeah. So like say I've got like half an hour after work, or like an hour, or I've said to Mrs. Stibio, I'm going to do some hams, I need some me time. If I can go, okay, I'm going to paint the red and I'm going to shade it, and that's done.
Yeah, and I think that is, that. You know what? I mean, I know I suppose a little bit different because you painted a hell of a lot more than what I have, and there's a little bit of a theme to what you paint, so you probably have an idea of
I've got like a
typically
rhythm.
like, how long this takes or whatnot. Maybe that would help. My issue is that you've just told me that, and my head straight away went, yeah, that's a good idea. So what I need now is I need to start writing down plans and making big spreadsheets of all my projects, so I can be like, this would take approximately 1 hour and 7 minutes, and then but no, I know what you're saying. I need to do something similar to that, and it is kind of what I'd told myself. Like I was like, right, even if it's, I suppose you're breaking your project down, aren't you, into sort of checklists and going, right, I've got this scalp primed, I'm just going to do blocking all the base coat colours, and that's it. And you kind of don't let yourself go any, I mean, you can do if you've got the time to do it, but you're like, yeah, I've hit that goal and that's fine. And I suppose it's get a little bit more motivation because you're like ticking it off bit by bit.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of the both of you, man. How you just, like, especially you, Stibio, taking a half an hour for recess shading and counting that half hour. I need to sit down, paint, and not be disturbed. I can genuinely get angry when I have the time in my mind planned out to just be painting. And for example, I don't know, the baby is fussy or whatever. I can get really, really agitated because mentally I've already planned the progress for the day, and then that day mentally, and then I get disturbed by something and the rest of my day is ruined.
It's a similar sort of thing, like in that, as I said before, typically I'm a free agent from like 7:30 in the evening, but and I go to bed at 11:30, so I have a 4-hour window. And let's say something pushed that 7:30 to 8:30. In my mind, I just it's like I have this battle that fights in my mind. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, what's the point? What's the point now? Yeah, I'm like, what's the point? That's a waste of an evening now. It's done. When really, there's still 75% of the time that you would have had. And it's a problem that I've noted and will be rectifying this year. The YouTube, you know what? The YouTube stuff's been quite good because that kind of stuff you can just jump in for like an hour, like just say, oh, I'm going to do this tonight, or I'm going to film this, or I'm going to, because you break in, like I do that with the videos. I break that down into sort of sections, and it's not all done at once. So that, yeah, maybe I just need to implement that into the painting. It's not a bad show.
I don't know. It's hard to explain. So I do get like not annoyed, but like I do need the time as time, if that makes sense. So I am used to having a lot of working all random shifts, random hours. So I get some weeks I can have literally no time to do anything Warhammer, or some weeks I can have like 3 days with like 5 hours in the morning to paint. Obviously, I've got other stuff to do, but like I've got that window. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, because like you all have babies, so they're all like running around with paint in the hands and throwing models out the window. So I don't have that. But
I don't know if I could do what you do. Like, but again, it's just because I suppose realistically for me, for the past 10 years, I've worked the exact same days and the exact same times. I know when I'm at work, I know when I'm free. And yeah, so although, yeah, I do have kids, they don't actually have a massive impact on my free time. Like, I still see my friends, like, still have people come round every week, still do the hobby. Me and the missus still do stuff in the evenings, because that's just how it was anyway. Like, in real terms, as I said previously, after eating when we get home from work, we have his evenings, and we still do. I think if I definitely couldn't, if you said to me, tomorrow you don't have to, I start work at 7:30 in the morning. If you said, tomorrow you don't have to start work until 12 o'clock, I could not get up and paint. I just couldn't. My mind wouldn't let me do it. I'd be like, you can't do that. You do that on an evening. I think I'm just a freak.
nah,
This hobby does attract, and no offense, I've had this conversation with friends of mine as well, but I'll do anything and everything to get away from anything and everything just to sit behind my painting desk and proceed that the chasing of that mental image that I have.
That is it. I'm sorry for shouting over you, but I feel like I chase the chance to sit down and paint, but then I sit down and I'm like, oh, because like the effort to get to that point of having the free time to paint, and then you're just like, oh, I'm exhausted. I've only got half an hour in me. But I think it's just adult life, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately. You're just another wheel in the cog, aren't you? And like, we don't live the life, or not many of us live the life where you can do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah, when I'm in work, like not all the time, obviously, but I just can't wait to, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll paint this on this, I'll do this, I'll get started on a dreadnought, and I get home, and I'm like, oh, gotta do dishes for an hour.
You underestimate how much.
Cook dinner, okay, and I'm gonna sit and watch a bit of telly with Mrs. Stibio. Okay, then I'll get half an hour to do some painting. And I'll sit there, I'm like, oh.
It's not it's not a hobby though that, like, as an example, prior to Warhammer or painting in general, I was a big online gamer. It's a totally different hobby. So like, if you came home, you ate, you cleaned up and whatnot, and with a hobby like that, you can just, I don't know if it's a console, if it's a PC in my case, you can sit behind the PC on whatever game you're on. Typically speaking, like, that game you can make it as mentally tiring as you want it to be, and so it takes a lot less effort to do a hobby like that. Whereas it's pretty mentally exhausting painting. Like, if you know yourself, like if you do like long sessions afterwards, you think, Jesus, my brain's fried a little bit. So it's when you've done a full day at work, it isn't the easiest thing to be like, right, come on, brain, round two.
It's why I envy Brush, because I can't. I've knocked streaming on the head because I can't mentally do it. It's just so tiring for me. But like Brush can just do it for hours. And I know you get the headaches, but like you have like the willpower, and I find it enviable because you can just paint and stream for hours, and I can't do that level of multitasking. It's just It's commendable.
But to be fair, I don't have the obligation of getting anywhere on time other than the obligations that I have to my family at this moment. So it's not a fair comparison. I don't know what's going to happen if I'm going to work like 2 to 3 days a week in a month. And maybe I'll be absolutely exhausted. But then again, on the other end, I've also learned over the past, because I've always been in innovative and creative endeavors in the past, like small businesses, and trying to build that up. So you take up a lot of, like, you're wearing a lot of different hats. I've noticed that a lot of the stuff, like talent, inspiration, muses, things that people tend to wait for, I feel like, have to force them. So sometimes it's pure joy and enjoyment, and you'll just do it, and you'll sit down and you'll go for it. But there's also a lot of days for me where I power through the barrier of getting things done. And it happens with the streaming, it happens with painting, it happens with whatever. Because at that moment when I get into it, it's almost as if I'm taking a walk. I see this enormous hill in front of me, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. But then mentally, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna force it step by step. And then as soon as you start making those first steps, that hill starts to shrink really rapidly. And from there on, it's basically a downhill run for me. I don't know if you guys, if that's like a mental image that gives any understanding. But
Yeah, just like chipping away at it.
Mental image. Like I was having this chat with someone on Instagram, but as I was saying before about the process of painting a model, I find the base coating of blue and then the highlighting of blue to be like the uphill, and I have to force myself to do that. And then I finished that, I'm stood at the top of the hill, and then everything after that is like going downhill. It's like painting the different details and the freehand and all that.
yeah,
It's so enjoyable and rewarding. But you have to have painted the blue and edge highlighted that, like the main colour, to get to that point.
I think it's like that with anything though, right? Like, and not just with the hobby, and typically anything that's worth doing, and that's where the success comes from. Because like a lot of people get to the hard part, if you like, and quit, and then it's those that continue that end up sort of reaping the reward from it.
It's like Richard Gray, he didn't just like wake up one day and go, I'm
No.
Richard Gray. Like he had to paint thousands and thousands of hours. Plus he has natural talent, but he's done those hours and that slog to get where he is.
Yeah, but I also feel this is also why I enjoy starting up a model and powering through those first steps of, like you said, the blue and then the edge and then the highlighting of the blue. Mentally, the reward for getting through that first hour of painting a model afterwards, because a lot of the things that I do unplanned, so I have like a basic sketch mentally of, okay, I want to work towards this, and then all the secondary colors and tertiary colors for me start in, and that's when I start experimenting and enjoying, and I know that I'm working for that bit. Because for me, hobby burnout in general is just a max of a week not touching a brush and then forcing myself to get to it again just to paint something. It doesn't matter. And when I do that, I catch myself most of the times in the early AMs warning myself, like, okay, I got to get up in 2 hours. I have 2 children. One of them needs to go to daycare. I need to stop now. And that's when all the fun starts for me, at least. This is this iron will of just getting through it, because there's this pot of gold at the end of that journey, for me at least.
Everyone's got their own unique experience, don't they? But we all have very similar. I'm trying to find the words. It's same but different. Is the way to put it. Like I personally, I'll just like not want to touch a brush. I'll not want to do anything. It's just feeling overwhelmed. I think it's the base way of putting it. But I found it's better to embrace that and not punish yourself. That's a lot of the reasons why I knocked all sponsorship stuff on the head, because that is a literal punishment. Being sponsored isn't a punishment, but like you're letting someone down essentially if you don't do it. But say I go, I am not feeling painting this tonight. I just don't paint it. And accepting that, embracing that, I find reduces the hobby burnout, because it's meant to be enjoyable. So if you're forcing yourself, it's a little bit different from like getting up that first part of the hill. But if you're forcing yourself to even look at the hill when you really don't want to, just do something else and come back when you're ready. And I found that to be so mentally freeing, because I did that at the end of last year, just coming into now. And I've just jumped back on the horse because I embraced it. I was like, nope, that's me done for a bit. And then came back to it. Yeah, just loosen requirements on yourself. Be forgiving of yourself. Everyone's got stuff going on in their life. Just be more forgiving is my big thing to the listeners.
Yeah, another thing that I like to try and, or not that I like to try and do, it's what I do. I try and, me and my brother live fairly close to each other, but not close enough that, like, I nip round to his every week. But typically on, like, Monday evenings, we'll jump on Discord, and sometimes it's in, like, a private channel, or sometimes it's just in my Discord in, like, a public channel, and I'm not necessarily in my mind saying, oh, I'm going to do hobby tonight, but I'll jump in Discord, we'll catch up, and you tend to find that while I'm chatting, I'll be like, while I'm chatting, I may as well as, like that last week is when I ended up building the 2 scouts from my kill team. I was just like, and I didn't actually think about hobbying because I was just chatting and building, and for the 3 hours that we were in Discord together, I, assembled those. So sometimes if you can, try and mix it with something else. For me, this one thing I need is like interaction with other people, and that's purely from, obviously I came from online gaming and found this as a replacement, but that is the one thing that I missed like mad. Was I had a pretty solid group of friends online that I've spoke to for 10 years. I still speak to them, we just none of us really play the game. And for me, I was like, yeah, I'm having fun with this hobby, but Christ, it is lonely. Like, sometimes when Instagram's alright, you DM people, but most of the time I guess it is interaction with people, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like, you're not hanging out or anything like that. You're probably just discussing something from a post or whatever. Yeah, I think if you can find other ways to motivate you that also include the hobby, then that can work too. A lot of the time it's me, my brother, 41st my name Dave, jumps in, but that guy's got all the motivation in the world. I don't think he even knows what Hobby Burnout is, and we just chat, and yeah, I think that's going. It's part of why I made the Discord anyway. But I think from the middle of February, I'd initially said that I wanted like once a week to do like a hobby hangout in the Discord, and if it's me sat in there by myself, that's fine. But typically, you notice that if you're sat in a channel, someone else will be hobbying, and then I'm going to jump in that channel. Actually, it's pointless me sat doing my hobby on my own while that person's doing their hobby on their own. And most of the time, the person who jumps in the channel is someone that I've never met before, never spoken to before, and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
I was in a bit of a hole a couple of months ago, and Brush sort of poked me and brought me into his Discord channel, and we played a bit of Space Marine. And honestly, it was the best. It was well up. Oh my god! It was just so nice. It just snapped me out of it, and it was just really nice to hear his voice and talk to him. And yeah, it's just stuff like that. It's really good. And like, yeah. What about you, Batline? You've been a bit quiet.
I'm starting to think this is a therapy session for me. God, but yeah, it's hitting hard. Yeah, I suppose I'm a bit of a stuck in a rut, to be fair, if I'm totally honest. Yeah, it's getting over that. I suppose, like you said about the hill, it's accurate, but more the hill for me is like my desire to want to sit down and get started. Like, think of it more of a like a really tall speed bump than a hill. You know, it's short. I know if I get over that, and I just sat down and, said, I'll just play around with the paintbrush and do something. Then next thing I know, 3 hours have gone by and I'm like, oh, I've got to go to bed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. But I just can't find it in me at the minute to get over that. That's what I'm struggling with.
That is exactly how I feel when I have Hobby Burnout. It's that initial beginning. And yeah, I feel you, because I don't know how to, apart from reducing the stresses, shall we say, I have no idea how to solve it. Apart from just
that's what I've done. Obviously, I've stepped back from the hobby so I can focus on the other things that I'm needed for in life. Although then I'm taking on extra things, which we won't talk about.
What about like getting involved with other people though? Because often I think like if you, I don't know, like let's say you're doing something, your own projects, and you can't find the motivation to do that. But this is me just throwing an idea out there. It's not something I've actually experienced. And someone else that you know says, "Oh, I'm doing this little fun challenge," or "Do you want to do this or whatever?" Do you think you'd? Because I think for me, that could potentially work. You know, like let's say I was like, I've got no motivation to paint, but then someone, I suppose, knew that was the case and ended up poking me saying, "Oh, how about we both do this or whatever." It's almost like someone else is going to the mental effort of choosing a project for you.
I mean, we've been at the LGS, we do have a Warhammer group. We have been saying, it's been saying for months now, to be fair, but we've been saying that we need to get together and just have like a hobby session at the LGS. Yeah, because you're right though, like painting minis is lonely. Like, you may get wrapped up in your own headspace, you know, you're sitting there painting, you got your podcast on, it sounds like a good time. But then when you really come down to think about it, it's just you in your head at that point. Like no real social interaction. And I think that idea of like maybe doing a hobby hangout or, you know, like a paint session with friends might just be that thing that, you know, will get me over the speed bump.
There you go.
At the end of the day, I'm sitting there forced to paint with other people. So if other people are forcing themselves to paint, I might as well force myself to paint.
Yeah, but also, you know, once it becomes a regular thing, it isn't you forcing yourself to paint. It's, you're just going and hanging out with the people that hang. I always think this, if you, Infernal Brush's Discord, look at his Discord most evenings, and there's always a bunch of people in there just painting together. And typically it's a similar, like, bunch of names each time. And I think they've probably just, like, I mean, I don't know if they've met each other or whatever. They probably have, because I imagine they're a lot of competition level painters. So seeing each other at competitions, probably just a case of, like, one of the guys jumps into a channel and before you know it, the rest of them all pile in. They've probably got particular evenings that most people are around. I don't think it's maybe that's going to be the one of the things that comes from this podcast channel, eh? A regular
with your friends
hobby hangout session.
Hobby hangouts. I mean, I think when I was just starting in the hobby, I used to have a hobby hangout with like another commission artist, and obviously I used to always ask him, could you help with this, could you help with that, it was brilliant. Like every night I'd go painting, and then each week I'd be like, I've learned this skill, oh, this has got better. And so just having people like you can bounce ideas off, really good. And like that you can get, you know, feedback or help with. Yeah, don't let's not make this hobby so lonely.
Yeah, I think
that's what we need to take away from today.
See,
I'm the opposite.
Here we go, Mr. Anti-Socials here.
I think, what is it called? An extroverted introvert. I love talking to people. I love interacting with other people. But talking to people drains my energy. So I have to have my alone time to charge up my battery. Like literally, like going to that's an example, like going to a party. I don't go to a party because I'm old, but anyway, going to a party, I'm having a whale of a time, but it will drain me mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be alone, and I find Warhammer for me, after working, blah, 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 that is my recharge. Or like, you know, playing a video game, going on reels, whatever. The only person in the whole world who doesn't drain my battery is Mrs. Stibio. But even then I might need, 15 minutes of hams. But
does she listen to this podcast?
No.
I didn't know if you were just throwing that one in there for the brownie points.
She would not. Too nerdy for her.
Yeah.
But that's, it's, I think, different strokes for different folks. Like, I wouldn't enjoy doing the hobby hangout because it's like my thing I'm using to recharge a battery.
Yeah.
Even though I would enjoy talking to people, I'd love it, but it wouldn't charge the battery back up.
I think it depends.
Yeah.
Like when you say that, do you think
I can't stream because it just drains me?
Yeah, but do you think it's because of like the effort that you put into? I mean, I genuinely don't know, but like again, I feel like I'm talking about online gaming a lot, but I've done gaming since I was like 10, 11 years old. So I'm used to, for example, like I'm thinking of like my Discord. I'm used to jumping in a WoW raid with 40 people that I don't really know and just having random conversation that takes no effort. And then like the last game that I was in, you could jump into a channel with 99 people. I don't know. I think the thing is for me is if I was in a channel painting and someone comes into the channel, I'm not all of a sudden I'm not changing anything, if that makes sense. I'm just like, I don't find silence awkward because I'm used to it through gaming. Like, I could game with someone for 15 minutes and we haven't spoken for 10 of those 15 minutes, and then someone says something and then silence comes again. So I kind of get what you're saying, but I think that's maybe down to you as a person, well, it obviously is down to you as a person. I don't find it draining in the slightest. It's just second nature.
That means you'll be an extrovert then, so social interaction recharges your batteries.
And you know what? My friends laugh at me for this because in person, I'm a nightmare. I've got about 4 friends in real life, very close, and I don't need any more friends. But when it comes to online and stuff like that, like I'm in there. I'm all for making more friendships and talking to people, but I think it's because I don't have to commit any sort of lifetime to them people, if that makes sense. But I'm a nightmare in not in person, because if we met in person I would be the same as this, but I've got I don't think I could commit to like a hobby hangout every week at like my local game store with random people every week, but I think I could online.
There's a safety net in there. There's a safety net.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wrap up this section of the podcast. I'm gonna move on to question of the week.
Ooh.
So this one is from a daring_you_paint. So I was reading out the whole comment and then we'll get to the question afterwards. Another great chat, lads. I'm trying to figure out what accent Brushlikker has. Dutch, who learnt English from American TV, maybe. For your question of the week, how important is the story/narrative of a mini / army to your painting?
For me, the most important part, I cannot paint a mini without imagining the scene in which the mini is set. And the army is the same.
Is that you imagine it, though, or are you going off of being true to law, or are you placing that mini somewhere?
No, well, for example, I'm working on Trans Crusade models now, and I've picked hold on to your pants, the Sultanate of the Invincible Iron Wall of the Two Horns Piercing the Sky. That's their full name, the faction.
Okay.
And originally they have these khaki red gold color combination, but I've changed the red to green because I'm very interested in everything and anything that has to do with Islam and in Islamic history. And I know that green is the Sunni environment, so I'm kind of picturing them to be more towards the Saudi peninsula. And then this whole story in my mind goes about how, like, the original story is that it's the Sultanate of Rum, from which this faction has originated, which had a blue color. But then I give it my own swing with, instead of white feathers, I give them purple feathers, for example. And then I'll just try and implement the whole idea of, okay, if that is the case, then all the other units in the faction should also have those accents. And I think of my own, like my own sultanate, a faction within the greater realm with, I've tried to paint, for example, a peacock feather on one of the troops, but yeah, they're like 28 millimeters and the feather is too small. But the peacock feather represent the Druze sect within the Levant, which are derived from Islam, but have been kind of put away as heretics. And then I start to implement all these ideas and things that I know and try to create like an own thing within a timeline that is different than ours. And I do this for all the other armies that I have as well, where I Slaves to Darkness and please stop me if I'm yapping, but for my Slaves to Darkness, I've painted them army, like bone, whitish colors. The more extreme they are, the more versatile their colors are. And they do not know that they are worshipping the Chaos Gods because they're worshipping aspects of the animals within their realms, for example.
That's so good.
And they look brutish, but that's because they believe that the strength that they own comes from the pieces that they wear. So they wear jagged armor because jagged armor exudes power, because claws are jagged. Beasts of prey, like predators, have jagged teeth, jagged claws. So I try to implement that idea of my own imagination of what would I want to see bring to life. And that's my approach to most projects, where I just look at a mini. It's like, okay, this is the pose. What would be the scene? What would be the environment? And I'm always bummed out that I'm working with like a 32mm base, because I can't implement the entirety of the scene that I'm seeing in front of me. But I also don't have the the discipline to go for a full army on parade type of deal, to be fair. Because I'll get sunk in and I'll completely lose myself, and I'll truly look like I live under a bridge after a month or two.
I'm not as that self-driven, because you've like created the narrative for yourself. I love the narrative of things, and that's what inspires me to paint. Like I love ultramarines, mainly because of the color blue, but then you have so much story and like reference material. So I know that First Company has a white trim, and they fought the Tyranids on McCrag, and they all got eaten, and there's all this like history that you can like bring into your models. Like Ultramarines, whack a Tyranid skull on the base if it's a First Company, that sort of thing, or like put certain colors on them, blah blah blah, or like Trench Crusade. That has blown me away. Like I've got some new Antioch hopefully on the way. And just the stories of Trench Crusade, it's so juicy. But then I'll like listen to stories like the Imperial Fists or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, I want to paint up one of them, or I don't know, Orc, or like I really want to paint Trays in the Infinite after, reading the Infinite Divine, or I'll play.
Still waiting on their new model, Games Workshop.
Oh, or I like the Rogue Trader game. I really want to like make my group from the Rogue Trader game as models, but I don't know what on earth Warhammer model has a big naval hat. But it's that sort of stuff for me. Like, it's not me driving the story, it's me absorbing it and sort of spewing it back out on the minis. That's for me. So I would say it is really important for me that the models have a backstory and a blah blah blah, because at the end of the day, we wouldn't be doing Warhammer if it wasn't for the stories and stuff around it. Especially, I'd say you might be, but like the reason it's so popular is because of its story. It would just be another miniature otherwise.
I am the total opposite. I'll be honest with you. I do. If I don't care about the story of what I'm painting. Like, that isn't saying I don't like the story or anything like that, but a story doesn't make me paint or not paint a model. If I see a model and think, yeah, that's really nice, I'll buy it, and it could have the lamest story in the world. That being said, sometimes if I get certain models or whatever, I will then try and make something fit, if that makes sense. So this is, well, as an example, I was like, I want to paint a bunch of Marines or whatever, but I don't want to paint them all the same. I can't be doing that, just because I'm just not that type of person. I can't do a Stibio and paint blue every day. I just can't. So I ended up, well, again, it was something that someone suggested to me, and then I ended up looking it up. So I decided to do all 10 of them, painted up like from the Last Wall protocol?
Yes.
So I was like, it's basically an epic way to have an army, I suppose, that all look different, but aren't, because they've all come together, and that was... So I've actually done that with... I said that's what I was going to do with these scouts, and I contacted someone on Etsy and got them to make all the transfers that I couldn't find. But yeah, so I would say that's the difference, is that I'd probably get a model and then think, Well, if I don't know anything about it, maybe now I'll do a little bit of research and see if I can implement it into it. But for me, the story isn't what inspires me to buy or paint a model. It's purely down to aesthetics.
What about you, Battleline?
So I'm sort of with you there, Norm. Like, yeah, I've listened to stories and it's been like, oh, that's a cool character. I would like to paint that. Like you said, with the Infinite and Divine with Trazen, like, but I'm holding off that one until again, Games Workshop make a new Trazen model. I don't think the story should limit what you want to do on the model. So I know there's a lot of people who are like, well, for instance, as you were saying, First Company Ultramarines have to have this insignia, have to be like all Tyranid based. I don't know. I think it came from the Khan that I did. The client said, I want a Goblin Green base and it to look like he's just running through a meadow. And as lore goes, it's nothing canon. But in his head, like he said, well, I imagine Khan, like when the nails are biting, to be the only way I can put it is, have you ever seen the Team Fortress 2? Like the meet the sniper and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Meet the Pyro, where in his head he's got a scene where he's just like casually dancing through like a candy unicorn world, but really he's just completely going and massacring everything. This is what he had visioned for Khan. So in his head, he's just prancing through a meadow, whilst really he's just slaughtering on the battlefield. And I was like, I dig that. I like that idea.
I mean, I'll just interject that anyone who says you have to paint something a certain way is a prick.
Agreed.
Well, I like the imaginative powers of. I mean, in all honesty, I feel like the GW has granted us a setting with all liberty of doing whatever we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of the gaming system, to be fair. And that's how I regard it. I read the Slaves to Darkness book and I was like, oh, this is such a cool idea. I'm going to play with this. I did the same for my first 40k army that I started and never finished. Was a loyalist Alpha Marine faction that stayed within the shadow and was ghosting heretic Alpha Legionnaires. And I have a bunch of models here, painted up, ready to go. Never done anything with them because I lost interest in the project. And then led basically by 3 dreadnoughts that were the head of the Hydra. One with 3 heads in the middle, and then 2 with the tails. Like if you put them next to each other, it would be like one Hydra with all the fins on them. And I was like, and people were like, yeah, but it's not. That can't be done. Who made you the king of Warhammer, bro?
Get in the sea.
So you do whatever you want with the hobby.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a dude on YouTube called John Bias, and I love his videos. He's like an older gentleman, like an ex-army vet, and he just paints up like Warhammer and scale models, and he'll say stuff. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, you can't do this, or it wouldn't be weathered like that. And he's like, on this day it is. On this day, it's like, it's your model. Paint it how you want to paint it. Like, it's just. But I personally find the rigidity of like First Company, white shoulder pad, da-da-da-da-da. I like that, and I like pushing it, like, heavy weathering, blah, blah, blah. For me, I enjoy that. But then if someone said to you, oh, you've done it wrong, actually, it should be an ochre trim, it's like, get in the bin. Unless you're paying the dude to paint for you, then fair dues, but otherwise, get in the bin.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't mind drawing inspiration, but I don't think, like you say, you shouldn't be limited to this isn't canon. Yeah, the people who like you said, go off at you because something's a shade wrong.
But apparently, I'm not privy to it, but apparently in the scale modelling, they're very like, you've used the wrong coat colour. British infantry should be
red, I can imagine too.
Not deep red. There's not enough rivets.
It should be burgundy.
3
not
rivets,
burgundy.
too many on this tank. But it's like, I don't want to get into it at the very end of the podcast, but it's like female Space Marines. Like, they're not in the law. But if you want to make your model with a female head on it, go for it. It's your model. And it just gets people so angry.
Yeah, but there's also a thing like the warp, which explains basically anything and everything that exists, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who cares?
Just
Zinch is the Lord of Change. I mean,
Yeah, if Zinch wants boobed space marines with female heads, then go ahead.
well, like the Trevarian Mister of Battle. That was glorious.
oh, that was brilliant. I like that. To be fair, when they announced the female custodies, I did I took a Stormcast, one of the female Stormcast heads, and I put that on my custodies that I was painting at the time. And yeah, that got some heat. It's like, well, why?
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's a
vitriol.
make-believe world.
There's a lot of vitriol about this make-believe.
At the end of the day, it's all just plastic dollies that we're painting with a coat of paint.
It's literally, it's
Yeah.
literally toy soldiers. Like,
You
it
just
is
play with
more than
toys.
that in a way, but it is also just that in another way. So, it is, baby.
It is what it is.
It's your hobby. You do it your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, it's your money as well. Like, unless somebody pays your models for you and pays you to paint something up the way they want it, like, with all fairness, fuck them.
I think that's all right. It's right near the end. We can allow one on here.
Yeah. Also, to answer the question by, sorry, what was his name again?
Daring_W_paint.
Yeah, I'm Dutch, and I've learned English through watching Cartoon Network without subtitles.
Hey.
So there's your answer.
Well, I'll end the podcast there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can find Brushlikker over on Twitch, Brush Likker, also on Instagram, and just hanging out in the walls. You've got Norm, Dyson Pigment over on Instagram, and then BattlelineMinis, Instagram, YouTube, and I'm StibioPrimaris, and you find me on Instagram and YouTube. You're probably listening to this podcast on YouTube or Spotify, but if you're not, check it out on Instagram. No, if you're listening on Spotify, you can find it on YouTube, and vice versa. Right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Peace.
See you next time.
Bye. Wait, how do I end it? Oh, no, end. No, stop.